more involved. So here on the screen is just a list of the different locations where the pilot signs will be posted, as well as the locations where the stations where the pop-up events will be hosted. All this information again is going to be available at that dedicated webpage. Again, is mbta.com/bus signs. Moving on to MBTA training. So this is what's long awaited and exciting update regarding our bus operator training. So beginning in December of 2023, the MBTA operations training department, they launched what is called bus training relief. So what this is a full week where operators, they build it into their schedule. They receive a full week of training on a variety of different course that includes a variety of different courses, including a full day accessibility and motion class. So this is a comprehensive training program that instructs frontline staff, bus operators on how to communicate with riders with disabilities, outlines all the critical rules and procedures related to accessible service, includes instruction on emergency preparedness. It's quite comprehensive, and it also includes hands-on component as well. In total, that class is about 8 hours long. That's just one of the classes that's included in this week-long training program. And I will note, so we've been providing bus operators with this training for well over 12 years now. I think it was maybe 2007 when we launched the original course. We've updated it a couple times. We have most recently updated it in December, just before this new training program was released. Also included in that week-long training is just a general operator recertification program, security and emergency preparedness, de-escalation, and many other courses. Bus operators will attend this training program every 2 years. That's the plan right now. Also related to bus operator training is our first person perspective training videos. So this was an initiative our department led, or has and continues to lead, beginning last year. So we all believe, and I know you all share the same, just how perspectives of our riders is to MBTA staff. So we wanted to integrate those perspectives into our training. So for many years now, we have invited riders from the community to attend, although that is wonderful and it is great to have those folks in person. The problem is we have so many different training classes is that it's really difficult to ensure that our staff are hearing those perspectives, hearing about those experiences all the time. So last year, we began the process of creating videos where these videos are based on interviews that we've conducted from riders from the disability community on a variety of different topics. So last year we began this, and the topics that we touched upon include riding the T with a non-apparent disability, the importance of stop announcements on buses and trains, the importance of priority seating, as well as some guidance on how employees should be offering assistance to customers. So we produced those about midway through last year, and we began integrating them into our training programs in December. Our new bus operator, our updated bus operator accessibility training program was the first program where these videos were included. Most recently, we created a accessibility training program for our OCC dispatches, which also has these new videos. And as time goes on, as we update the existing programs, as we create the new programs over the next couple of years, such as training for transit police officers, updated training for our subway motor persons, etc. We'll be baking these videos into those programs. This year, under development, we have the first-person perspective videos touching upon the impacts of service diversions, emergency preparedness, the importance of customer assistance in stations, the importance of pulling to the curb, and also videos on several other topics. So just to give you an example, give you a taste of what these videos look like, I'm going to show almost one whole video. It's about 3 minutes long. I think the clip I'm going to show you is about 2.5 minutes. So if you just bear with me, I'm going to take this slide down for a moment. Wow. Kat, once I stop playing this, can you just confirm that the audio is working again?
Yes. Yep, it's working.
Thank you.
Well, I'll tell you, most of my favorite bus routes are on my side of town because those are the ones I keep an eye on, which means anywhere from Boston Medical to Forest Hills. I usually normally ride the orange line and the buses that go in that direction. Well, I have what they call hidden disabilities, which means that if you look at me, you look the way, just me walking, me standing, even talking, and you don't see anything visibly wrong with me that you could say, oh, she's blind, or she's hard of hearing, or, she walks with a cane or on a wheelchair. I'm not legally blind, but I also have vision issues. I'm also not able to stand for long periods of time. I can't hold my hand up above my head. Like even that strap that's right above where people have to hold on to, I have to hold on to the bar because I cannot leave my hand up that high because will get numb. I have a hard time climbing up and down stairs. These are like disabilities that people don't really see, they don't notice. There's a lot of us out there. It's just that it's not noticeable and nobody really notices us because there's nothing really to notice us to set us apart from other folks. T employees were very helpful. I got to the station, was trying to get down the stairs. I couldn't get down the stairs. I didn't feel safe enough walking by myself down the stairs, and there was no elevator. One of the T people came up to me and asked me if I needed assistance, and I said yes. I need assistance, started walking down the stairs with me. If the employee hadn't come down and asked me if I needed help and started assisting me down the stairs, I would have waited till somebody that I felt was strong enough to help me walk down the stairs. If somebody comes up to me and says, do you need assistance, it's because they noticed something. They noticed either because when I get really tired, I start limping. Is like a gauge on how tired I am. If somebody comes up to me and says, do you need assistance? They were perceptive enough to notice something, and I appreciate that. I would like them to know that there are a lot of other disabilities besides wheelchair riders or people that are hard of hearing. There's a lot of other disabilities, and what they need to be is, one, be observant. Don't ask a lot of questions. If a person says to you, I need assistance, chances are that person does need assistance.
So that's just one example of a video that's now being used that we're really excited about. I just want to thank those are on our staff in SWA who this has really been a collaborative process, as well as many others in various other departments here at the T. So just pretty happy to be sharing that with you right now. All right, so I'm going to pull the slides back up. And at this point, I'm going to hand it off to my colleague, Jennifer Ross, who is Deputy Director of Public Engagement. And she's going to talk to you a bit about some of the recent outreach that we've been doing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rob. As Rob said, Jennifer Ross, Deputy Director of Customer Engagement here at the Department of System-Wide Accessibility, and we're ramping up outreach in 2024. So improving outreach is to speak about accessible services at the MBTA is one of our biggest priorities for 2024. SWA has joined forces with the RIDE and the community engagement team to help amplify our message and make sure we can attend as many events as possible. To the right, there's a photograph of 4 smiling MBTA employees standing behind a table with a cloth with a big T, some colorful swag items, and some flyers there. Rob, next slide, please. We are taking our show on the road. So as a team, we offer the following items and have been to these events. We do group travel training and transit 101 classes. We do visits to schools in the greater Boston areas. We attend resource fairs to community-based organizations. We host students at the Emergency Training Center. And recently, our community engagement team is providing training on navigating the T to newly arrived migrants. To the left in this photo is a visit that we recently went to a Boston public school. We spoke with a group of 4th graders who were learning about public transit, and specifically they wanted to know about accessibility in public transportation. All the way to the right of the photo, you'll see our very own Rob Sampson, myself, and Ashley Armand from our community engagement team. Next slide, Rob. So some recent events we attended. Lynn Senior Center, the Lynn Interim Station opening celebration. Oh, what a fun time that was. DJ, photo booth and all. The Wakefield Council on Aging Resource Fair, White Cane Day at the State House, and the Technology Fair at the Carroll Center for the Blind. Our professional travel trainers have presented to Chelsea High School, Jewish Vocational Services, Academy of the Pacific Rim, Learning Prep School. They also actually went to Age Strong today. They're going to Weymouth High School next week, and we have about 15 events up on deck for the spring. On the right is a photo of our senior travel trainer, Linda Shepard-Salser. A bunch of folks are standing around a table looking at an MBTA system map. Next slide. One of everyone's favorite events of the year happened last week. On March 21st, we hosted a group of deaf, hard of hearing students at the Emergency Training Center. So the students were learning about public transportation in their curriculum, and they reached out to us and said, hey, can we do some hands-on training, right? Real life experiences. So we invited them down. They were able to explore vehicles, decommissioned vehicles at our Emergency Training Center. They got to hop on a green line trolley, ring the bell, beep the horn, which they loved, silver line bus, as well as a blue line train. Keynote speakers were our very own system-wide accessibilities, Mike Festa, who's an engineer and who's also part of the deaf and hard of hearing community, our division chief, Frania Hunter, and our own chief operating officer, Ryan Caholan. On the right, there's a photograph. That's me standing at the lectern, and I'm introducing my colleague, Mike Festa. And on my left is an interpreter, and they're signing to the students. Next slide. So this was a fantastic hands-on experience for the kids. They got to learn about safety in the workplace. They got to pretend to be an operator for the day, and they got to sit behind the wheel of those vehicles. To the right, there's two photos. One is of children, and they're speaking with folks from our safety departments, trying on hats and grabbing bullhorns and looking at all our equipment that keeps our employees safe. And then over further to the right is a picture of our Chief Operating Officer, Ryan Cahalan, speaking with Dr. Michelle Eason-Smith, who's the principal of the Horace Mann School, and addressing a bunch of children as well. Next slide, Rob. So if you'd like to invite the MBTA to an upcoming event or resource fair, we can provide information on accessibility at the T, about the Ride paratransit service and Ride Flex, about free travel training, free travel group training, how to apply for a reduced fare card, and how to plan an accessible trip, and more. We have materials available in multiple languages, Braille, and large print. So if you're interested in having us at an upcoming event or just want more information or materials, you can email publicengagement@mbta.com, or you can call 617-222-3030. That's the direct line to the customer engagement team. Next slide, Rob. And to learn more about accessibility in general, you could visit our SWA landing page on mbta.com/accessibility. You could read about our ongoing initiatives at mbta.com/accessibility-initiatives. If you'd like to sign up for our system-wide accessibility newsletter, we produce monthly. mbta.com SWA sign up. Some upcoming meetings. The next RTAG general meeting will be April 25th from 5:30 to 7:30. So that's a different time than today. And for those of you who like to plan in advance, like myself, our semi-annual settlement update hosted by Judge King is June 26th from 5:30 to 7:30. And as always, we want your feedback. So if you have questions, complaints, comments, suggestions, you can call 617-222-3200 or go to mbta.com, click on support, or tweet at MBTA. That is all from me. I'm going to turn it back over to Kat. And
Thanks,
now you can ask
Jen.
questions from SWA. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Rob and Jen. That was awesome. So we are now at the question and comment period for SWA. To indicate that you have a question, please use Zoom's raise hand feature located at the bottom of the screen. When you raise your hand, it alerts us that you would like to speak. You will then be unmuted to ask questions in the order that you raised your hands. To speak, click reactions, then raise hand. If you're typing, you can use the Alt and Y key. And if you're calling in, you can press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute. We have a lot of questions in the chat as well, so I will be going back and forth between those who are on the Zoom and those who chatted questions. So I'm going to start with Lynn first. Lynn, are you there right now? You're on mute.
Yes.
We can hear you.
Yep.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, for the survey and stuff, and to do the texting and everything, you gotta do that through that number you gave us.
Yeah, Lynn, bear with me for 1 second. I will get that for you. Just going to take this down for a moment.
What's the thing called?
Was the question about, pardon me, Lynn, the pilot about the larger bus signs and giving feedback?
The text
Yeah.
number, yeah.
Annie Arguello, are you on the meeting to help answer any questions?
Lynn, excuse me, Jen, I have it.
Oh, okay.
So Lynn, the number to use if you want to text and get more information, it's 781
Yes.
916
Okay.
8967.
Great. Thanks, Rob.
Can you unsend me it in a chat?
Yes, we can do that. Yep.
Okay.
And Annie added in the chat that the survey for the bus stop pilot will open on April 8th and will end on May 3rd. All right, I am going to quickly read one of the chat questions. We did have a lot of comments, positive comments about the Horace Mann School visiting, as well as the video of the non-apparent disabilities that you all showed. Our first comment is that we need replacement number 14 and number 41 bus stop signs for Center Street and Highland Street heading towards JFK and UMass. And now I am going to call on Rebecca Jean.
Good afternoon, everybody. I got a comment people might not like. Why put signs up when nothing is enforced with the bus stops? I'm disabled with a walker and have had to go out in the street way too many times to get on a bus. I've seen it in 7 years. I've only seen it enforced once. And that was 2 motorcycle cops 7 years ago that actually ticketed somebody in the bus stop. I've seen them drive by. I've seen them shake their head and keep on going. And I've had police cars park in the bus stop and go into a store. That is not fair to disabled people at all. So my comment is, why put them up if they're not going to be enforced? It always already says no standing tow zone. And nothing has been done.
6, 7.
Is there anyone who wants to respond to that from SWA?
Sure. Yes, Rebecca Jean, this unfortunately, this has long been an issue, block bus stops. And that is something that has been really difficult to tackle. That's why when Kat noted just the pending legislation that is going to hopefully pass, it would and hopefully do wonders for this issue by holding people accountable, by identifying when motorists are blocking stops. It's proven to reduce the number of instances when bus stops are blocked in other cities where this similar legislation has been passed and put into law. So we're hoping that happens. So, but in terms of when this happens, when bus operators are servicing stops that are blocked, we do train them to try and find alternative locations where they can pull over to the curb. Unfortunately, that isn't an easy thing to do. That option doesn't exist at a lot of locations because really it's you just have.
I can understand where you're going, all right?
Yeah.
The thing is, I'm with a walker, so it's not as difficult to do that, but it's still dangerous.
Mhm.
My partner's in a wheelchair, and she said I do it quite a few times. Problem is, no enforcement. Why can't the T police or Boston police with the traffic department decide, go with the one that runs the tickets with the tow truck right behind them, the hook and drag? That'll get the message out very quick about it.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Rebecca Jean. Again, this is, another reason why we're asking folks to help advocate for lawmakers to pass this bill that I was speaking about earlier, because unfortunately, the city does not have the capacity right now to enforce all bus stops and bus lanes. And so this bill would really help catch
That's
people who
dogs.
block bus stops and bus lanes.
Well, the way I see it, you can pass the bill, enforcement's different. I don't expect to see any enforcement. All right,
I am going to read a couple of comments that are related to this in the chat. Abby Swain had said it would be great to make the importance of pulling to the curb video in particular available to the public for use with the jurisdictions. Example, municipal transportation departments that are in a position to make/keep curbside space available to buses. And Heather Hoffman said, it's not just the importance of pulling to the curb has to be safe and accessible. And just because we have so many chat questions, I'm going to read one more for Rob. Does the bus operator training include how to lock down wheelchairs for users, including the fact that there are different types of hooks for different wheelchairs?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, so not only is this covered in the classroom portion, which goes into great detail, shows examples of different types of wheel mobility devices, what is, showing examples of devices that are improperly secured as well as properly secured. We go into great detail. And then there's also an extensive hands-on portion where operators use a variety of different wheel mobility devices, both manual and power, as well as scooters. I believe we have 4 different devices of different sizes, different types that we purchased to give operators a chance to practice with different types of devices. And then we also really try and empower operators when, if they come across a device that they have not seen before, that we want them to ask the rider if there is a particular spot on the device where they would like securements attached. And as long as it abides, complies with the training that they've been given rather, they're encouraged to go to those locations. So.
all right, thank you.
Great.
Mine's
Thanks, Rob.
going to be leaving because I have another meeting in about 20 minutes.
Well, thank you for coming, Rebecca Jean. Much appreciated. Susie, you are next.
All right, thanks. I'm just gonna put this out there. I've got a question when the Charlie Card store will be back at Downtown Crossing from where it is in 10 Park Plaza. I find it easier to take care of folks if I can bring them down to the Charlie Card store near where I work. But so I'm just wondering for some outreach that I'm doing.
So Susan, I have to double check the date when the new Charlie Card store is supposed to open. And so to be clear, so the Charlie Card store is moving from its former location in the Downtown Crossing Summer Street Concourse over to a spot on Washington Street, right next to or right nearby the accessible entrance to State Street Station. For multiple reasons, they can no longer use the space that where the store was previously located. But I will double check that date, and I'll make sure that we include that when we meet next.
A follow-up, where is that accessible State Street entrance, please?
So it's on Washington Street next to the Old South Meeting House. Opposite, I believe it's School Street.
Thanks, Susie. Thanks, Rob. I'm going to read a couple of chat comments and questions again. Whitney Sands says, as a retired school bus driver for disability services, as well as a mobility, vision, and hearing impaired person, I beg you, poll the drivers. We care and see what needs improvement and want the service to be accessible and safe for all. And Heather Hoffman also said the T also needs to insist on better municipal enforcement to keep cars and other vehicles from blocking bus stops. I was on a 69 bus that had to steer slowly and carefully around a Harvard bus that was blocking a bus stop on Quincy Street, which really doesn't accommodate side-by-side buses. I made sure to compliment the driver on her skillful driving when I got off. Thanks, folks. Helen, you are next.
Thank you. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna kind of tag on one of the previous chats comments, which is, and then just expand on it a little bit. I'm wanting there to be lifted up when there comes to be bus drivers who pull into other bus stops because the bus stops that they want to pull into other places because the bus stop is occupied with something. I'm just aware that I'm hoping that there's a conversation with the system, not system-wide accessibility, but tying in with the general system, that bus drivers are expected to make their route within a certain period of time. And when I've experienced bus drivers pulling over to a curb in a dangerous place, and they feel, and if there's like a red light that hasn't turned to a green light and there's 5 or 6 or 4 cars ahead of them and they don't want to wait, or they don't wait for the red light to change to green so they can pull into the bus stop. I'm aware when I've spoken with them that they know that they are on a clock, and there's a clock apparently right in front of them by the second telling them you have to move, basically reminding them that they have to make a certain route at a certain pace. So I'm hoping that there's consideration for conversation with bus drivers and what the expectations of them are, maybe extending the bus routes so that there's more time for bus drivers to wait for a red light to turn to green. In my experience on the 69, I'm legally blind, the 69 bus in Inman Square, bus drivers commonly will pull over right into a bike lane, which is before a very safe, sheltered bus stop. And they will spill people out and we step right into a bike lane. And it's just a matter of I've had my cane clipped. It's very dangerous. It's just a matter of time before someone who's a device user or maybe even a baby carriage wheeler, they push the baby carriage into the bike lane and that baby will get hurt. So somehow all of this needs to congeal together. There's so many more cars on the road, I think, since COVID, and it's just so much more pressure on the drivers and so much more dangerous for us when we want to get off a bus and we can't see, okay, we're about to step into a bike lane. So I'm just hoping that there's going to be really good, earnest conversation and have there be adjustments to routes, time, and for drivers to know that they can't just pull over anywhere, even if it looks like there's a little bit of space, 6 inches, 10 inches or so, before you step into a bike lane after you get off a bus. That's not a bus stop. So, I hope that system-wide can address this and bring a lot of people to the table and adjust it so everybody's safe and not scared. Also, and when bicyclists are not expecting buses to open their doors into their lanes, so they end up needing to swerve, and they can swerve right onto the sidewalk, hurt themselves, hurt somebody else. So this is just a situation where everybody needs to be considered. And I don't want bus drivers to feel oppressed and scared that they're not going to make their route on time and there're going to be some kind of consequences. So all of us need to just adjust things as best we can, but we need to be safe. So thank you so much for your work on all of this. I appreciate it, and everyone's comments.
Thank you for sharing, Helen. The next person is someone calling in from a 781 number. Would you like to unmute yourself? And press *6. All right, I will, go ahead.
This is Richard Johnson. I'm new to the organization, or this group, the RTAG. I'm wondering, is this taking place of the access board that the MBTA used to have? Hello?
Yes, that I am going to let Jennifer Ross answer that question for you. Potentially.
Yes.
Do you know the answer to that question?
Yes, this is the new iteration of the ACT group.
Access group. And another thing is, I'm representing a Commission on Disabilities for the town of Weymouth. Will all this information be available somewhere on a website accessible by a blind guy?
Yes, so these meetings are recorded and they are all posted to the MBTA website in like a few days to a week. So they should be up there shortly, and you can watch past videos as well.
And we'll have the
And we'll-
presentation posted as well, and those, we ensure that they're accessible for everybody.
Thank you. And how would I get to that? mbta.com or something like that?
Lisa, can we put that in the chat?
Yep, just did.
Yes.
You're the best. Are you able to
Yeah,
get from the chat, or?
No, I'm on the phone for one thing. I didn't have the ability to, I can't see, so I don't use my app, my iPad for.
Can I text this number, the link?
No, I'm on a dumb phone. You could text it to another phone number if I could.
If you want to share it with me right now, go for it.
All right, 781
Mm-hmm,
985
mm-hmm.
0710.
And now I'm gonna ask all of you to text that number. Nice message. Just kidding. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. My phone's gonna die. I gotta go. Thank you for all your
Sounds good.
information. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, bye.
All right. Okay, any last questions for Rob and his team? Jarrett, I see that your hand keeps going up and lowering. Do you have a question? All right. Rob, thank you so much. Thank you, Jen, and your whole team. I will have you take down the slides. And oh, Jarrett, do you have a question?
Yes, I have the issue of my account.
Can you repeat that one more time?
No, I have a question for you.
Okay,
go
ahead.
No, I have the issue of my account. I cannot log in.
You cannot log into your MBTA account?
Yes.
Okay, that's something that we could fix offline, and I actually have your phone number, so I'll give you a call so we can try to fix that.
Yes, please.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks for your question. Peter, I see your hand is raised. You are currently muted. You are still muted.
All right, how's that?
That's good.
All right. I have some comments. I've been riding the T for I'm retired. I was riding the T for several months now. And I noticed a few other more or less handicap subjects beyond the bus. Or is this just related to just the bus alone?
Pete, if you want to share what's on your mind, we could.
Okay. Well, several things I noticed on a subway car, for instance, they have the the priority seating on the subway cars. That certain seats is to be held by elderly, handicapped on the bus, on the train. Familiar with that?
Yep, definitely.
Okay, what I've noticed is that there's many people sitting there that really don't belong there, in my opinion. And my point is that they can't or don't read the sign on the wall. And I've done this myself. I've sat there and didn't realize I was sitting in one.
Mm-hmm.
And my suggestion to you would be to place the handicap, the priority warning on the seat itself. Because many times, you don't look at the wall, but you do look at the seat to see if it's empty. So if you put the handicap notice on the seat itself, I think people would notice it more than, and they won't be sitting there.
Yeah, that's a good point. So it was several years ago when we redesigned the sign that you see out on the system today. And that was actually discussed, obviously where's the best spot for there to be assigned. And actually the reason why we decided not to put it on the seats is just from when they were occupied. So in that case, if, to let riders know when it is occupied that this is the seat, because in those instances, there might still be an opportunity for someone to relocate. We felt that it was important that it still remain visible even when someone's sitting there. So,
Well, keep them both then, because when you're
Yeah.
looking for an empty seat, you're looking at the seat. And
Right.
people naturally sit down without realizing it or caring or whatever. But to be fair, they just cannot see the sign because there's all these other signs on the wall anyways.
Yep.
So put it on the seat itself, because that's what people look for. So I'd say put both if you have to.
Yeah.
And instead of having to come some type of confrontation with the person to tell them they have to move, it's, to avoid that, I think it would help in the long run.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for sharing.
Thanks, Peter. Just because of time, Lynn, since you shared already, I'm gonna call on Debbie and then Mick quickly, and then we'll move on to the ride section just to make sure we have enough time. So go ahead, Debbie.
I'm not sure what the policy is, but I was getting on the bus the other day and the driver stopped in the middle of the street.
No.
Okay. He didn't pull up to the curb, stopped in the middle of the seat, and I walked over and I'm waiting for him to put the thing to lower the bus. So I said, "Are you gonna lower the bus?" He says, "You didn't ask me." I mean, when you mean asked you, he wasn't even near the curb. So had he been near the curb, maybe I could have stepped up on it. But I'm just trying to figure out, he's talking about something, I have to ask him to lower the thing so I can get on the bus when he needed to pull near the sidewalk. What's the policy on that?
So Debbie, the policy, sorry to hear that happened. So the policy is anytime a bus stops in the street, which operators should be pulling to the curb, but in the event that they were unable to do so, they automatically
No,
should be,
that it was completely empty, but nobody there.
they
He
should
just stopped in the middle of the street so he'd have to pull out.
get it.
He's just stopped right there at the road. That's my point. So I figure if he's going to stop there, he should at least have the courtesy to lower it down. I shouldn't have to ask him that. If he'd have stopped near the curb, it wouldn't have been a problem.
In that case, no, they should automatically be kneeling the bus. That's the policy. That's what they're trained to do. It's if they are pulling to the curb and there isn't a significant step up, in that case, yes, it is likely that riders would request and they would, kneel it. But if you stop it in the street, it's automatic. It's supposed to be automatic.
That's what I thought, but that's
Yep.
not what he did. He told me, and I'm standing there waiting. He's looking at me, and I'm looking at him. And I'm like, "You gonna lower the bus?" You didn't ask me. I said, "Excuse me?" I said, "You didn't pull near the curb either." I wouldn't have to ask them,
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of confused because a lot of them have been doing it lately. So I'm a little bit confused as to what's going on.
Yeah, no, if in those cases, it would be great if you could let us know, if you could file a formal complaint with all the, key information, route, destination, location, time, so we can work to address it, because it's been a policy for a long time now. There's really no excuse for that to not happen.
Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you.
Rob. Okay, Mick, you're gonna be our last one.
Well, to conserve time, why don't you go on to the next, the next part, and then if I still have the question that hasn't been answered, then I'll answer it then.
Okay,
I'll
sounds
answer
good.
them.
Thanks, Mick. All right, thanks, Rob. Rob is going to just take the slides down, and Michelle's team will put the slides back up for the ride portion. Great questions, everybody. Mike Hulak, are you able to put up the slides?
Yep, hang on just one sec.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
And Michelle was actually able to make it, so she will be presenting for the ride.
I am. Thank you. Nice to see you today.
Nice to see you.
We're normally a Teams group, so I find when I have to share something here on Zoom, I did get my camera working though, that I usually have a problem.
I'm glad to hear that. I was having tech problems earlier, so it's not very reliable. All right, and then Mike, the present button is just to the right.
Yep, there we are.
Sorry for the delay. Hang
No
tight.
worries. I think
Thank
you
you,
just
Mike.
have to go through. All right, perfect. So yes, instead of Chris, it will be Michelle, but Michelle, take it away.
Okay, can we go to the next slide? All right, thank you. So some of you have been to the RIDE subcommittee. You're going to see a lot of the same information, but happy to open it up at the back end for questions. So with respect to our ridership, the numbers look very similar to that of January. Dedicated service providers provided 67,466 trips. On demand was 49,289. And integrated was 12,202. You can go to the next slide. So with respect to on-time performance, we hit 90% for February. Trip pickups greater than 120 minutes decreased significantly from earlier in the winter and more so from January to February. We went from 6 to 5. Next slide, please. Our hold times for February were 0.28 minutes and our call volume was 82,548. And I've trended both the call hold times as well as call volume here, just to give you an idea of where we are. Next slide, please. This slide, unfortunately, I did not update, but I can update you on the numbers. So one of the metrics that we track with the call center and performance is the share of calls answered within 2 minutes. In January, it was 94.1. In February, it was 92. So 92% of our calls were answered within 2 minutes. And we're very pleased to be able to report that out to you. Next slide, please. So I will speak to the rate of complaints, which we track per 1,000 trips. In February, we had 190 complaints, 22 commendations, and 245 inquiries. The top trending complaint is pickup, drop off outside the service window. Next slide, please. And then here, I was going to speak to our efforts to increase our headcount here at the RIDE. We have been chipping away at our vacancies. We have several active postings. And I know I shared in the subcommittee meeting that we recently filled the deputy chief position. Chris Jurek has accepted the role as deputy chief. And just some other items that we've touched upon that we're working on a project with Northeastern to introduce AI to the RIDE. We're going to continue to research electric vehicles and our efforts to update our communications continue. Something that we're looking toward and perhaps enlisting assistance from SWA or short video tutorial clips for some of the functions at the RIDE. Next slide, please. Okay, so before I close, what I would like to share, and I spoke a little bit to that at the board meeting today, is that we are nearly done with the wage increase. There are 2 amendments. for our service providers, and one is fully signed, and we're waiting for a signature on the other one. This will effectively take our driver wages from $18 and $20 an hour to $25 and $27 an hour for sedans and vans. We anticipate, I believe it will be implemented in April, barring any unforeseen concerns. But we're hopeful that we can begin a mass marketing campaign to pull in drivers. And to add on to that, today at the board meeting, they voted to include premium fares in the reduced fare program. So what that means for us here at the ride, who had advocated for a delayed or tabled expansion to premium, is that we do expect to see some impact to our service as we see an increase in demand, but we're committed to working through that and really feel good about the wage increase for our drivers. And that's all I have, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you so much, Michelle. So we are now at our question and comment period for the ride. Again, to indicate that you have a question, please use Zoom's raise hand feature located at the bottom of the screen. When you raise your hand, it alerts the moderator that you'd like to speak. The moderator will unmute attendees to ask questions in the order that they raise their hands. To speak, click reactions, then raise hand. On the keyboard, you can click the Alt and Y keys. And if you're calling in, you can press *9 to raise hand and *6 to unmute. And if we end this section earlier, we do have a few more questions for SWA, so we'll be able to hit those. So I'm going to start with Lynn. Go ahead. You are currently muted, Lynn. And you are still muted. I will give you a moment to unmute yourself, and I'll let Debbie go first. Debbie, you are also muted.
Am I muted now?
Okay, you're unmuted. Go for it, Lynn.
Yeah, the questions of the ride thing is, sometimes they say, like, make you late for a trip, or like they bring you to a place that's not open yet.
Lynn, okay, from what it sounds like, you were expressing concern about arriving late or early.
Yeah.
To
Really late on one appointment and had to wait a long time to get picked back up.
I hear you and I understand you. We're working on the on-time performance. One of our issues that we're struggling with right now is a shortage of drivers. And what that means is they often run late and some trips are booked inefficiently. But we are hopeful that with this wage increase that I just spoke to, that we're going to see improved performance. And we're not simply tracking just on-time performance, but we are looking at individual trips and delays on pickups, that we capture them and we hold track responsible and our providers responsible for those trips. So in a nutshell, we are hopeful that these wage increases will allow us to recruit drivers, and we will be in a position where you will see less late arrivals and early and late arrivals.
The other thing is, they were talking about the store, you know, the downtown crossing store.
Mhm.
But why is that changing?
Rob Sampson, do you want to quickly hop on if you're still here?
Is
Yeah.
Chad- okay.
Absolutely. So there were a number of maintenance issues that basically made that office unsafe for employees to work. Is really the short of it. So
So where's the place gonna be, and how you can go there? Like, is it near a train station or a bus route or what now?
yep. So it's going to be on Washington Street in downtown Boston, near State Street Station, which serves the orange and blue lines.
Mhm.
And so what we'll do, Lynn, is I figure for our next RTAG meeting, we will provide some additional information about the store, the estimated opening date, so that way everyone is aware of what's happening now.
So right now, it's has changed already, or no?
So right now it's at a temporary location at 10 Park Plaza
Uh-huh.
on the second floor. So they've been there for 8-9 months or so. So they're, fully operational here in this temporary location.
Yeah, and Lynn, I'm sure that SWA along with RTAG will do a good job getting the word out and including it in our newsletters, and we'll make sure to spread awareness and educate folks at upcoming RTAG meetings. So thank you for that question, Lynn.
And with the whole thing, are they gonna contact me of how to go about doing different things there?
Again, we'll probably spread, I don't know exactly all of the details, but SWA and RTAG will work on getting all that information out. Just because of time constraints, I'm gonna move on to the next.
Okay.
That's okay.
Yep.
Thanks, Lynn. Debbie Weathers, you are next.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. The first one is, I don't know who's training the new drivers. And then again, I do, because I actually got on train. But lately they've been picking me up across the street, and I always have to ask them to turn around. I have to get into an argument with them. And then I say to them, the only way they go and turn around, I said, it's a safety issue. I talked to safety about this. You can't make us go across the street. You're supposed to turn around. And so last week, a lady came up and she says, and I asked her, why don't you turn around? I said, why are you on that side of the street? I said, you need to turn around. She says, oh, I don't know about the turning around, because we're here now. So because it was late, they was already late picking me up. I went and I got on the vehicle, and there's a trainer sitting there. And I'm like, you're training her? She says, yes. I said, well, then why are you training her to pick me up across the street? Oh, I said, you're supposed to turn around. Well, that's not in my notes. This is the trainer. That's not in my notes. It's not in your notes to turn around. I said, that's a safety issue, but I'm not going to argue with you right now because you're already late for my appointment. Now, I've been wondering why these days most of these noodle drivers been parking on the opposite side of my street. But if that's the way they're training them, that's why they're doing it. So somebody needs to look at, first of all, somebody needs to look into that, because I don't understand that.
Thank you for sharing that with us. And is this recurring?
Yes, every I don't know, if lately when I've been going out to get on the vehicle, if they come up the street, they don't want to turn around onto it's a two-way street, and I talked to all this for safety years ago, and they said they're supposed to turn around. And when I got on it, I was shocked to see her training her. So I'm thinking that's why all these drivers have been coming up to the house lately and making us go across the street, or asking us if I have time, I will make them turn around.
Thank you, Debbie.
So a safety issue.
What we're going to do is we're going to pull your trip history. We'll review with the providers, and we can speak to safety.
The last one I did, the last one, because it was the trainer on there training this person, I did fill out a customer complaint, because
Thank
she
you.
shouldn't be teaching her to do that.
I'll be certain to have that pulled so we can look at that and bring that to our provider attention.
And,
And we
another
can reinforce it because we do have a safety meeting coming up with our providers. So we can
Mhm.
reinforce that tomorrow in our safety meeting.
Yeah, but I know why they're doing it now, because some of the trainers are training them to do that. Because I was curious as why every time I come up, they got to ask me to turn around. Couldn't figure it out
Yeah,
until
thank you
that
so much
day.
for sharing, Debbie.
And I have one other question.
Go ahead.
The person that's writing these response letters, how do you get in contact with that person?
Refund?
Because
Response.
because the okay, when I write out a complaint and somebody answers me with a letter, they always answer me with the same stuff I already know. I already know it's a shared ride. Okay, they're saying we're supposed to go the same direction. My complaint is they're not going in the same direction. My driver picks me up on time, and then he went 35 minutes to the opposite direction, and I was having a procedure that day, so I was late for my appointment. So
Debbie,
the letter said that we try to pair people that going in the same direction, and they didn't. They did completely the opposite. And then when it came time to pick me up because they made me late, I was really late for that appointment. And so when they took me, they told me to call when I was done. So I called when I was done, and then I was talking to the person. They said, you got to wait an hour and a half because you missed your pickup. I said, you missed it because you made me late. So
Yeah, thanks.
then I talked to the manager, and I said, well, send me a lift. I got flex, send me a lift. She said, we can't send you a lift because you missed your ride on your pickup. I said, no, but you made me late. It's a difference. If I'm late getting out because it was my fault, but this is your fault. You got me there late. And I was lucky they took me. And then they send me, and then the thing about it, she says, we can't do that. You still have to wait an hour and a half. I said, never mind, don't send me the ride. And I
Okay,
canceled.
Debbie, thank
But
you.
at the same instance, what happened was they sent me back a letter telling me I got flexed. I could have took a lift. So somebody's not talking to somebody, which I know I could have took a lift, but they wouldn't do it.
Yeah, thank you, Debbie. Michelle, will you just answer the question?
Yes.
If there's a possibility to get in touch with the folks who write the complaint response letters?
Well, right now, our service providers, our contracted service providers prepare those responses. But we're working on some quality control on our side where we're reviewing those responses to see that the issues are identified correctly and addressed. So you will start seeing some changes in the upcoming months about that. But
Yeah,
no,
'cause they're
there
very
is,
generic. They're very generic. I'm
Right.
sorry, but they're very generic.
and we
They're
understand
not,
that.
they're not addressing the issue. Everything he said in that letter is everything that I did because I know what I'm supposed to do. But
We're aware of that and we are going to make adjustments. So right
it's
now
getting
we're
the
looking.
headache, and other people I talked to on the ride, they don't even want to make complaints, and because of this generic stuff, and they're just fed up.
Yeah, thanks, Debbie. I'm gonna move on to the next person. But Michelle, yeah, we look forward to seeing those changes. So thank you for sharing. Linda Freeman, go for it. And do you want to also touch on the comment you left in the chat?
Sure. First thing is on a tap card, I know you can add value, but will it be impacted if you do the monthly link pass?
Linda, that's a great question, but I don't know that I am equipped to respond to that. If there isn't somebody here on the line, I can take that back to the FAIR team.
Okay. And then the second thing is AI, the artificial intelligence, does not always do well with those who are speech challenged. And it can redirect into a category or direction that's not what the request was about.
I understand that. And I know that the team is working on incorporating that type of feedback into what they're working on.
Okay.
This is a joint venture. It's a 6-month venture with Northeastern.
Okay.
Graduate students, to see how we can introduce AI to help our customers, but there also may be a way to offer assistance internally to staff as well. So we expect to see some improvements, but this is just our first foray into AI. So I do think that there's still a lot for us to learn yet. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Just keep a human voice person as backup. Okay,
Absolutely. That's our intention.
thank you.
Thanks, Linda. Helen, you're next.
Thank you. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. This is a question about seat belting. I know that when I get onto onto a full ride vehicle, one of the buses or rigs or the larger vehicles, that there's assurance that I'm belted in, a seat belt. But the last couple of times, two of the last times I've ridden the ride in a sedan, the driver has taken off before I've actually been able to plug myself into the seat belt. And I've asked them to stop and wait, and it's been responded to with some relative impatience. So I'm wanting to know what kind of training drivers get. Should I assume, I mean, perhaps I'm assuming wrongly that there's a desire for us to be allowed to use a seatbelt and for there to be some pausing for us to do that. Maybe it takes me a minute longer to find it because I'm just a little bit very vision impaired, but is there an assumption that the drivers should wait for us to to use the seatbelt? I don't need assistance doing it, but I certainly, if I ask them to wait, I would like there to be a pause or for the person to stop as quickly as they can so I can belt myself in. So just wanted to know what the expectation is for drivers.
Helen, thank you. I think that's a reasonable expectation. And this is again something that we can bring up at our safety meeting. Mike is the Director of Operations. Mike, would you happen to have anything to add to this?
Yes, first I apologize. The driver should not be moving the vehicle until he or she is aware you are secured with your seatbelt on each type of our vehicle. So they are trained the same way, either a van or a sedan. The vehicle should not be put in motion without identifying you're secured or even asking if you need assistance. So we will definitely bring that back to our safety department. Thank you for letting us know.
Thank you kindly.
And I'm sorry as well, Helen, to hear that had happened.
And again, tying it in with the question of, do they need every second that they can to be able to stay on track? So if that's a confounding issue, or if it's just relative impatience with us, then those would be two different things. So, all right, thank you so much.
Thank you. I was going to say, I think there are a couple of things to unpack here, which is training. Some of the things we would look at is the driver's time with the agency, opportunity for refresher training, something as a broader issue to bring to at a safety meeting, and to ask our providers to reinforce with their drivers. So thank you.
Thanks
Thank
again,
you so
Michelle.
much.
Spot on. I mean, not only is it our policy, but our policy for as long as I can remember, but it is mass state law.
Very helpful to know. Okay, I certainly feel safer when I'm belted in a car. So, all right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Helen and Michelle and Mike. Okay, Mick, it's your turn. The floor is yours.
Hi, everybody. My question, actually, I have a couple of comments and a question. So I bundled everything together. First part, since we're discussing now the ride, on the ride issue, I have a lot of community folks who keep calling me concerning the ride. It seems to be the same complaint. It has not changed throughout the years, and it seems to be the same complaint. Drivers not waiting, drivers, taking off, and drivers being late, or the rider being late. And again, the response with when they make a complaint, the responses that they get back are very generic. We're sorry this happened, blah, 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 but nothing gets done or nothing gets accomplished as far as they're concerned. I myself had to stand with a rider, and we waited 2 hours over time that they were supposed to be picked up. And at the end, they didn't get picked up because they said they had gone there twice and we were standing right there and they never showed up. But the driver reported that he had shown up twice and we weren't there. So like I said, and we never found out what happened with that complaint. We never found out what happened with the driver. And to this day, there has been no answer back. So anyway, that was one of the things. Customer complaints, how do they, who returns it and how do they return, the responses to the complaint? Also time picked up and time down. There was a complaint this week concerning that they get picked up at 6 o'clock in the morning for a 9 o'clock appointment, and yet they still arrived late to the appointment. And they were complaining about that. They called in and they still have not gotten a response concerning why that happened or what that situation happened. And that seems to be something else that's very frequent. Now, concerning the MBTA in itself and signage, I got a complaint from someone in Brookline who said that their street is being worked on, and that the T sign was moved. The stop was moved because the street is being worked on. But the sign was moved 4 blocks from the elderly housing area where it was. The one across the street is still there to pick up, but the one coming back, and that's the bus that goes from, I guess, goes by Brookline. I can't remember whether she said it was the 40, not the 41, the 47 or the 8. I can't remember which one she told me, but she said that they moved it 4 blocks, didn't notify the community that, like, they just woke up one day and the bus sign was not there. And this is within the past month. And they just moved it, and it's a hardship for a lot of the seniors and the people with disabilities that live there in that area, because they moved it 4 blocks. So they have to actually go cross over almost, I think it's Boylston Street or Commonwealth Ave in Brookline with Brighton, with the crossing of Brookline and Brighton, in order to get to the next stop. So it's like you moved it 4 blocks away and didn't notify.
Hello.
Okay,
Thanks for
Mick.
sharing, Mick.
Mick, so it's Michelle from the ride, and I took a few notes about what you had expressed concern about, and it was drivers not waiting, drivers leaving. Is it leaving early?
Well, they don't wait, not that they don't wait for the person, is that they have the person themselves have to wait like 2 or, like an hour, 1-2 hours, and they don't understand why. But the most complaint is being picked up 2-3 hours before their appointment and yet arriving late to their appointment.
Okay, all right. When you say that you take complaints, is this on behalf of neighbors?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Mick Cepeda, and I'm one of the help me out.
Mick
me out.
is one of the original plaintiffs from the Joanne Daniels Feingold lawsuit.
Okay.
She was actually the person who was in the video that Rob shared earlier.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
Mick is a good representative of her community in the Forest Hills area. So a lot of people talk to Mick about transportation issues.
All right, so Mick, I hear your concern and acknowledge that we could be doing better. And I've shared that we are hopeful that we've turned a corner with increases to the driver wages. A lot of this is driven by driver shortages, but some I would like to drill down into. And when you shared that you get these complaints, I do believe you said that some people have submitted but not heard back.
Exactly.
If we could connect somehow and pull these individual complaints, I would like to take a look at them, what was submitted and what actions were taken on our side, because we do respond to all complaints.
Well, then to that effect, I will be expecting some of the people that I spoke to within the past 2 weeks to receive something, and I will ask them, because as of yesterday,
Mhm.
they had not received any return reply.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. At a minimum, everybody receives a response, and that's why I encourage everybody to submit. And I had shared that we're looking to improve how these complaints are handled. And we have a new person on board, our communications team. Marika, not sure if you're here, but Marika is the senior customer liaison. And we're going to be taking a closer look at the complaints that are coming in and make more effort to track and trend them and to ensure that our customers get the appropriate answers. But if we could connect somehow via maybe through Kat about
that's good.
what you're seeing and we can pull that information, I would like to do that.
Okay,
That would be
great.
great.
Mick,
Thank you.
I'm gonna see is there anyone from system-wide accessibility that can address Mick's concerns about the bus stop that was moved or bus sign?
God, I am here. Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, Mick, can you explain again the bus stop that was moved?
Yeah, yesterday I got a complaint from someone that lives from a customer in Brookline. Okay, they are in the housing area, but where the senior, there's this, I guess there's a senior part in Brookline, and they have been doing construction on the street. What happened was that they took the MBTA sign, they moved it 4 blocks away from the original sign. Nobody got notices on it, and the bus doesn't even, the bus just like I said, it does the last stop about 3 blocks previous and 4 blocks ahead of wherever the original sign was. And it's a hardship. They've been complaining because they say it's a hardship for some of them to actually get to the bus stop. And, you know, me with my condition, you know, that in my, I understand what 4 blocks to someone who can, you know, who can walk or is in a wheelchair, it's not as hard as somebody who has to walk with a cane or a walker or simply try to manage.
So,
Are you able to find out for us or connect us with the friend you're referring to so we can find out the specific stop and location? Because I think that will be important for us tracking down what went on here.
Okay, she's somebody, I talked to her yesterday again, and I told her to refile. And I told her to all, you know, all the ones that had the same issue to refile. And I think I gave them Jennifer's email address.
Yeah, if you want to reach out to me or John or someone with that, we'll look for it.
Okay, yeah, Mick, thank you so much. Before I move on to Joanne, Chris, did you want to say anything?
I just want to say that in Italy, every month, SWA is notified by service planning of bus stop changes. We don't always get notified of all of them, but we're trying to get a better handle of it. So certainly if you can get us that address, we can have a discussion with service planning and figure out what happened.
Great, thank you so much, Chris. Joanne, you're next.
Hi, to go on top of what Chris just said, this is part of the communications we need between the municipalities and the T regarding construction that's happening, or even that might even be MassDOT, who knows? I know the streets that mixed named are both state highways. So one hand has got to talk to the other as far as, you know, that kind of thing is concerned. I have a number of things that I'm concerned about. I'm not good. I'm just beginning to be good at making complaints on the fixed route service. I haven't really done a whole lot on the ride. I got a call, it was just before I went in the hospital about 3 weeks ago, from a nurse, a nurse he's a social worker and nurse, and he does arrangements for patients at the Gen Center Primary Care at the Brigham, and also works with some other patients. But this was a Gen Center patient who had been at Spalding Rehab in Charlestown, and on her pickup, she was waiting, and the people from Spalding called a couple of times to see where her ride was. And after a long period of time, call was made, and they said, "Oh, you were a no-show." And I told Bill what to do, how to make the complaint, and who to try to speak to about getting this solved. But that was that. I mean, he knew that I was involved in access at the T, so he reached out to me on that. Anyway, there are other things that I've never really addressed before either. One was an issue of an incident that happened on a ride vehicle leaving the JP Farmers Market going south. There was already a family on, a woman and her 2 children, and I got on at Center and Burroughs. Before we got as far as, well, by the time we got to Forest Hills, he'd already popped a bead on the tire. The driver seemed to be very angry. He was uncommunicative, but he was driving recklessly, let's say. He went over a high curb, popped a bead on the tire. By the time we were at Forest Hills, we were literally right across from Forest Hills. The tire had lost enough air he had to pull over. He wasn't saying anything to us. He didn't call he didn't call the ride. The woman with the kids we were both frightened. It was scary because this guy's not communicating with us. But she was scared enough. She took her kids and left and went over to Forest, because we were literally right like next to Forest Hill Station. She lived in Mattapan. She was going to get a bus from there. I'm locked in this van with this guy, and he's not saying anything. I called the ride. They're trying to get him on the radio. He's not answering the radio. I called the T police. I thought there was a substation at Forest Hills, but I know a lot of the substations that used to be there aren't around anymore. But nobody came out from the T police. I called the Boston police. They said this isn't our thing because this is the ride. It's the MBTA. It's the transit police should take care of this. Eventually, dispatch sent somebody out to where we were because this guy's not answering, and they're finding him on GPS because he didn't say anything to anyone. And I'm on here with this, quite frankly, I'm thinking nut, and nothing's happening, and I couldn't get police help. What do you do in a situation like that? There's something else, but that's one that really I have no idea what to do, and I can see that kind of thing happen. Oh yeah, it did happen again. There was somebody who was upset that I was on the wrong side of the street for a pickup that I thought it was one address and it was one number more, so I was on the wrong side of the street. And he got an attitude. I'm in Brookline, and he starts heading north. I live in Braintree. I'm not happy. I don't know if Laura remembers, but I called her office and said, "Laura, there's a problem." And eventually he turned around, but there was no reason for him to go north. There was no reason for me to be heading toward Somerville when I should have been heading toward Braintree. That was rather frightening too.
Thanks, Joe. Michelle, do you have anything you want to respond with?
Yes. I'm sorry about your experience. You should never be in a position where you're not feeling safe or that you're not certain who to contact. I want to be certain, and we have to have this. Joanne, you did submit a complaint, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, Joanne, you're muted right now.
But nothing happened.
Okay, so either way, I would advise you to call 911 if you are ever in a position where you're not feeling safe. We've had some discussions with RTAG
You
about,
don't understand. I called the Boston police. I called 911. They
Oh.
literally said to me, this is a transit police matter. We cannot respond. That's what I heard from the Boston police. I called the transit police first, and I didn't get a positive response as to whether or not I would get any help. They never showed up. The Boston BPD said it's a transit police matter, and the upshot of it was, as far as me getting off of that thing, their dispatch, because this guy's not talking to dispatch either, found him via GPS and got me off the van. I know who to call.
I am going to, oh, I see someone has a hand raised. I'm going to reach out to the police department and the control center and find out what happened. And then I will step through with our operations team. Mike Hulak, were you aware of this?
This was a
I'm
long
not-
time ago.
No, I'm not aware of this. Joanne, I do apologize. How long ago did this transpire?
It's been a few years, actually.
Oh, I thought this was something recent.
No, but
Yeah,
it doesn't
Either
matter.
way,
I mean, it doesn't matter.
Either way, it's not acceptable, but I think that we built out, I know Mike has built out a relationship with the T police.
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and this would have been brought to my attention. So I was deeply concerned either way, but I feel a little bit better now that it was several years ago, not last week, that I wasn't aware of it. Kat, I just sent you a message. It might be mindful or beneficial to bring in TPD to one of these meetings, just to have a quick introduction with Chief Green and so forth, as we did many, many years ago. And he just gives some updated reports and so forth. I know the police department's busy, but it might be time just to bring him on board.
Yeah, that sounds like a
I've
great.
got one more issue. I'm sorry to
Okay,
bother you.
quick, Joanne, because we're running out of time and I want to make sure we get a couple more
Going to be quick,
questions.
let me talk. Okay. My house, the apartment building I'm in, faces a street that ends at a cul-de-sac, more or less. And I wait at the door of the address. There are times when I have an across the street neighbor who is very upset when people either get too close to his driveway or whatever. But all I have to do is pull up in front of the building and be away from his driveway, and it's okay. Dispatch has told people, and most recently a couple of weeks ago, that there's a neighbor over there who doesn't like people parking in or near his driveway, they shouldn't be doing. Anyway, and tells people to go over to West Division Street, which is actually in Holbrook, and I cannot see it. There's walls between me and there, and I can't see that spot. So there are people, and I've lost rides because people have been told to go over there, and I didn't realize they were there. And somebody said somebody would come by and say, there's a van over there for you. But that's not at my address. That's on West Division Street. It's not at my address. There are people who will tell people to go to West Division Street, not 43 Roosevelt Street. Can this be stopped? This shouldn't happen.
So this is a neighbor instructing the ride drivers to relocate?
You're not listening. It's your dispatch who sometimes tell the drivers, don't go on Roosevelt Street, go pick up this person on West Division Street.
And Joanne, yes, we can look into that as well. Has that been something that's been shared with us in the past?
Actually, I think yes.
Okay. So dispatch is redirecting drivers to another address.
Right. That can't be seen where I'm waiting.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Joe, for sharing all of these. These are really important issues.
I'll shut up now.
No, I wish we had enough time for you to continue talking. Before passing it on to Lynn, there's just a couple of comments that I want to read to SWA in the chat. Judy Downey shared, I'm very concerned about the gap between the trains and the subway stations when trying to move a wheelchair onto the train. I see that there are now lifts in some of the stations, but who is responsible for using them? I also noticed that if someone gets stuck in the gap, they should let the operator know, but how do we ensure there's enough time to get to the operator before they move the train? Is there anyone from SWA who's able to answer that?
Sure, I can take that question, Kat.
Great, thank you.
So just a note on terminology, we don't have any lifts in our heavy rail subway system. So, but what we do have on our red, orange, and blue line platforms are portable bridge plates, which I'm assuming the writer may have been referring to. So these bridge plates are available for any rider who may find the platform gaps that are present intermittently at our stations challenging to navigate. In order to access a mobile bridge plate or just get assistance generally from a station official or motor person. The first line of defense is if you see a station agent in the station, it's just great to let them know that you might need assistance, and they are then required to be ready to deploy a bridge plate for you. If there is no station agent present or at least visible as you're entering the station or on your way to the platform, generally the best thing to do is use one of our station call boxes. That call is going to go to our main dispatching center, and what they do is they radio ahead to the motor person to let them know that they're going to need to get off the train to assist you. Another alternative way to make the request is to simply, when you're boarding, to wait near the front lead edge of the far end of the platform where that first train pulls in, and ask the motor person directly. I know one of your specific questions is sort of what do you do if you're navigating the gap on your own and you get stuck? How do you make sure that the motor person knows and is order and is able to help you before the train moves? I just want to assure everyone that all of our trains are regularly inspected, and particularly our new trains on the red and orange lines. Those doors will not close if there is something in between them. But if that does happen to you, we recommend doing is just alerting another rider on the train to either use the call box on the train or to step off onto the platform and get the attention of the motor person. But I also just want to put in a reminder here, if you were not able to join last month's RTAG meeting or the October meeting, we recognize that platform gaps, particularly on our orange line, is one of the biggest challenges our riders are facing. A huge amount of effort has been going into auditing the issue, collecting data so that we can identify what solutions are available to us. In one of our recent orange line shutdowns, the maintenance included some rub rail at Chinatown Station, for example, to narrow that horizontal gap. And the plan is really to do that at all stations where we have excessive gaps.
Thanks, Laura. Lynn and Debbie, you'll be the last two since we have about 10 minutes left, and I just want to do a wrap-up summary at the end. So Lynn, go ahead. If you could just do it in about a minute or so, that would be great.
Yeah, I messaged you about what happened today.
Me? Or
somebody on the chat about what happened today. I had to wait a long time for a ride. It was curb and they were late getting me, so I was late to my appointment, and then I got to my appointment. They took me, but then I had to wait a long time to get my next ride to go to 6 Bowden Square. And the other thing about all this is that every time I say 6 Bowden Square or Bowden T Station, they always give me a hassle. Like, oh, we don't know that one. Or I say, oh, it's right after Government Center, the last stop on the blue line. And all that stuff. And they had to make a U-turn on Cambridge Street near the Sudbury, near the Verizon building. And they know to drop me off in the front of Verizon and the MBTA. And it's like, that's a messed up whole thing there. When it says right above, it says Bowden T Station. And then above that, on the same side as the Bowden T Station, it says Verizon 6 Bowden Square.
Okay, yeah, I hear you. I'm sorry that you're
And
experiencing that.
they always start in with me every time.
Lynn,
Well,
is
all
this
this.
a curb driver or are you referring to ride drivers?
Both.
Both curb and ride?
Have you
Yes.
submitted these as complaints, Lynn?
It just happened today on one thing, and I told them earlier that I gotta be somewhere at 9.
Okay, I would highly
And-
recommend submitting that as a complaint. And if you have any trouble with that, feel free to follow up with me so we make sure that those get submitted as formal complaints. But I appreciate you
How
sharing.
would somebody do that for me?
There's a few ways to do it that we put in the chat, but I will follow up with you so that we can make sure it gets submitted formally.
Okay, thank you, Kat.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for sharing. Okay,
You're
Debbie Weathers, you're on the clock.
Okay, I'm just trying to find out when are these meetings gonna become in person again?
That's a
Because
great
they really need all these people here, T workers, transit, all of that. And the people who are sending out these letters, because they're having the same problem I'm having.
Mm-hmm.
The letters aren't being answered right. Or they're giving you answers that you already know. Or you're on there like the other lady. That's what I was trying to do when I was getting late. I kept calling the track. I kept calling and they kept transferring me. By that, we're too far for me to get to my appointment. But we really need to get these back in person because I just don't like these Zoom meetings because there's not enough people are there and everybody needs to be there like they were at ACT.
I hear you.
Everybody was there, but these meetings like this, it's just us talking to each other and they're really not getting our point across because the letters, apparently they're getting the same kind of answers I'm getting, generic.
I hear you, Debbie.
And people are getting really frustrated. So I wish they would get back to in-person meetings.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're not the only person who has asked that. Definitely the energy of having people in a room all together is very different. And just to let people know, the meetings will never be fully in person. There will always be a hybrid component. So that makes it accessible for people who can't attend in person. That was one of my goals for this year, is to hopefully return to hybrid meetings and be able to have folks come back together in person, but also keep the accessibility method of having people online. So I'm going to try my best to work on that. But I appreciate you bringing that up.
They were hybrid even before.
Yep.
Even
Yeah,
they've
they were
always
always
been
hybrid. Yeah, no, thank you, Susie, for sharing that. All right.
They just have to make sure all the people are
So
there,
is that
like
gonna
the
be the
providers and
same?
everybody.
They
the
will be the
provider.
same meetings like this, but I don't know exactly what they would look like. So if that,
But
we have
we'll still
plans-
have these meetings too, right?
these
Yeah.
these would be those meetings. Yes. the RTAG meetings. They would just be hybrid.
They'll still be online, right?
Yep, there would be an online component.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Because I can't sometimes go to the other meetings.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
they-
no worries.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
and I'll keep you all
Make
updated.
clear. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we'll work on. Jennifer, do you have a quick question just because we're running out of time?
I just have a real quick statement to make that people really need to get the text information, because I find it to be very, very informative, and it also quicken up your pickups. Because if you click on ETA, it does that, and then if you do call, they're like, okay, we're on top of you. So people, please use your ETA with the text messaging. It does help. That's all I have to share with people.
Thanks, Jennifer. Ending on a high note.
And maybe we could step through that. Maybe there's an opportunity to step through what we offer through the texting.
Yeah, we can definitely do that next RTAG meeting for sure.
I think that would be great.
Awesome. Okay, thanks everyone. I just want to reiterate some things that we had brought up that we would love SWA and the ride to take note of. Well, one for us, inviting transit police to a future RTAG meeting. I think that would be a great idea. Michelle's team is working on generic complaint responses, and hopefully we'll see some changes with those. We'd like to see some increased training, driver training with seatbelts, like Mike was saying, at the ride, and also just general increased communication between the T, municipalities, and MassDOT, or the state. And again, for folks who weren't here earlier, and for the folks who brought up the concern about blocked bus stops, I'm one more time going to repeat what I said earlier, but we are, like I said, the city does not have enough capacity to enforce all bus stops and bike lanes effectively without cameras. So right now we're advocating for lawmakers to pass Senate Bill 2600, which features legislation about automated enforcement for bus lanes and bus stops for MBTA buses. And this bill aims to use cameras to catch people who block bus lanes and bus stops, and also sets fines for breaking the rules and gives a fair way for people to appeal if they get fined. And again, these cameras have been used in other cities like New York. And in New York, there was a 5% increase in bus speed and 20% decrease in bus-related accidents. So it was making the system a lot safer. And we're hoping that MBTA leadership, which they are on board, will make this a priority and publicly voice their support for legislation to members of the legislature and the general public. So that's something we'll continue to share call to actions for. But yeah, definitely reach out to your senators and share that, because that will ultimately be something, it's something we've been waiting for a long time to address the blocked bus stop issue and bus lane issue. But that's all I have for you all today. And we'll see you in April. Our meeting will be at 5:30 p.m. in April, not at 3. And I'll send out all of that information via our newsletter. So thank you all for coming tonight. I really appreciate it. And I hope you all have a good rest of your night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kat. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, SWA and the ride, as always.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.